Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? All right, let's get back to Iraq. There's a couple things going on. Plus, I want to address a couple of comments that I saw, which I think are interesting, because I think people are underestimating what's going on in Afghanistan in a major way. You guys know, if you're thinking about buying gold and silver, go check out our friends over at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. First-time buyers, spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, and get a free half ounce of silver. For those of you looking for my address, there it is right here. And you guys know I have this alternative website over there. I've been posting a ton of videos explaining to people what's going on with the jab. I recommend you go over there and check it out. All right, so as usual, there's a lot of good things in here, but I do want to address a couple of other things. I had made a comment in the video that the Taliban definitely looked a lot more organized and trained, better than they did before. And I listened to a reporter say the same thing. She said she's been covering the Taliban for something like 20 years. And she said this group of Taliban fighters are not the same. They're better trained. Who knows who trained them? But they're trained. They have an elite force. They look really well trained, walking in a straight line and holding a firearm. A perfect example of well-trained and organized. Christopher, no, Pimpy, just because you dress up in clean clothes. When I first read that, I couldn't help my hands on the floor laughing. Wearing stolen American gear does not mean they are tactically trained. U.S. Army Sergeant, 12-year vet, 2 deployments. Okay, Christopher, I agree with that. But let me show you something different and then get your opinion on it. Maybe I'm wrong. But these are the guys I was talking about right here.
Now, Taliban have handed over security of Kabul airport to the elite Badri 313 battalion. These commandos are no ordinary fighters. They're equipped with ultra-modern weaponry. They're like assault rifles, night vision, optical devices. Let's take a look at how they've been empowered.
Unit that is securing the Taliban's hold over Kabul and other parts of Afghanistan.
Now, yeah, I agree. They definitely have cleaner looking clothes. But these guys aren't your normal Taliban fighters. Now, sure, they could have put on some stolen American uniforms, grabbed some guns and jump around and took pictures. But these are the guys that I was talking about.
As the Taliban took over the presidential palace, the Badri 313 fanned out across Kabul, keeping a hawk's eye on any reprisals. And in case you hadn't noticed, the Badri 313 looks like any modern special forces unit.
So these are the guys I was talking about. Here they are right here. They obviously don't look like a bunch of sheep herders, if you get my drift. These guys are trained. Somebody trained them. They just didn't wake up one day, walk out of the cave and say, hey, this must be how you become an elite tactical force. No. Somebody trained them. They got the latest gear. They're going to train an entire army in elite force tactics. There's no doubt about it. These are the guys that I was concerned about. But guess what they now have, in case you missed it? Let me show you. All right, so not only do the Taliban have an elite force that somebody trained, and they managed to get a lot of modern equipment, but now the Biden administration has gifted them with the Air Force. Let's see what it is that the Biden administration has left over there in Afghanistan.
43 MD-530 helicopters, 33 C-208 transport planes, 33 UH-60 Black Hawks, 23 A-29 light attack planes, 32 Mi-17 helicopters, and 3 C-130 Hercules aircraft. And these are the official figures released by the U.S. Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction. How many of these 167 are with the Taliban? Well, there's no official figure. Some of them were flown out of the country, but according to independent websites, most of these aircraft have been geolocated within Afghanistan, meaning they're still there, either with the Taliban or some other terrorist group. Last week, 69 U.S. lawmakers wrote to President Biden asking him questions like these. Does he have a plan to ensure the Taliban do not get nuclear weapons? They haven't got an answer, and they should not hold their breath. The fact is, America routinely arms terror groups. Unpredictable. Sometimes weapons can end up in the wrong hands, but you can't make a habit of it.
And which is true, because that often happens. We go over and we train these fighters, we leave them with a lot of weapons, and they somehow always manage to fall into the hands of terrorist groups. You see, here's the big deal about what it is that old Biden left behind. Most of this is modern day technology that gave us advantage over other fighters. Afghanistan now is in a great position. They have an air force. They have a tactical brigade. Is that right? I guess, Christopher, you're deployed a couple of times. I guess my question to you is this. Seeing the weaponry that they now have, there's pilots there. We know this. These are pilots that were trained by us when we were there and they were helping us. How long before they get their hands on those pilots and those pilots are forced to train other people? We know that that weaponry and that modern technology that gave us advantage on the fighting field is now being spread all over to our adversaries. Thanks to the gift that old Biden left behind, I'm sure by now this is all in the hands of our adversaries and is being looked at. It's almost as if they're trying to purposely destroy this country and turn it over. It's just my opinion. Once they learn how to fly, how many years do you think, in your opinion, is it going to take for them to train an entire army of elite terrorist groups? If they already have an elite force 313, how many years, in your opinion, is it going to take for them to train and start becoming a training ground for terrorist groups around the world? They now have an air force. They have our Black Hawk helicopters, so that's really bad. How long until they start doing enough damage and they start taking over one at a time and spreading their ideology to other countries in the Middle East? That's all I was trying to say was this take over this country, the way it was done so quickly, it really does look planned. That's just my opinion. That's the group I was talking about, the 313 tactical so-called elite group. Now, I don't think they match up to a lot of our elite groups at all. As a matter of fact, I think ours is the world's greatest. So they can actually train an entire army, in my opinion, to elite tactics at least. That would give them an advantage as fighting soldiers on the ground, I think. Anyways, getting to the dinar. The European Union confirms its support for the Iraqi election. Good. Not a fan of the European Union. They are the testing grounds, or they were the testing bureaucracy of the New World Order, in my opinion. They wanted to see what it was like to control countries, a bunch of unelected bureaucrats, and they did a pretty good job. That's why they were fussing about the UK leaving, or I should say the Brexit. Anyways, the Prime Minister Al-Kadhimi received High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and his accompanied delegations. Okay, they were there. It says the Iraq PM added, Iraq is keen to benefit from the European experience in changing diversity into a strength by following the democratic mechanisms. They are a bureaucrat. They're not elected officials. For his part, Borrell confirmed the European Union's commitment to supporting Iraq at all levels and praised the Iraq government reform efforts and steps to develop renewable and clean energy, stressing the Union's keenness to support the upcoming Iraq parliament election. Good, thank you. The Commission announces the arrival of the paper ballots. They will be stored in a warehouse of the national office. So the arrival of the paper ballots. Here we go. The election is just, a little over a month? I'm curious to see who it is that wins. The Electoral Commission announced on Monday, September the 6th, the arrival of the ballots. Good deal. They're getting ready for the election. So they are there now. They'll be stored in the warehouse of a national office in the green zone in Baghdad, stressing that the stores are fully secured. We know there are people out there purposely going out of their way to interrupt this election. Iraq pays attention to the relationship with all European Union countries in various fields, especially political, economic, and cultural ones. Borrell praises Iraq playing a pivotal regional role as a forum for views and for what Baghdad represents in the elements of support for the stability of the region and the consolidation of peace and security in it. So Al-Raji and Ms. Blassar discussed two files. So Ms. Blassar is the European Union's representative that watches over what's going on in Iraq, and then she reports back to the United Nations. So on Monday she was there. The National Security Advisor, Raji, discussed with the Special Representative the support provided in the humanitarian fields and the needs of the displaced. A statement by the National Advisory said, in addition to discussing the files of al-Hol camps, as well as discussing the issue of electoral security, So her job is just to go there and make sure that somebody's doing something about the people who are displaced. When ISIS got there, there was a lot of refugees that made camp on the outskirts of Baghdad. And for the longest time now, they've been trying to get them back to where they belong, into their homes. I don't know how they're going to do that, but or at least place them somewhere, give them a home is what they're talking about. Finance Committee, the budget deficit has been fully covered. We heard about that in an article before, but we are now, October? We're in the last quarter of the year. This is good to hear. There should be a surplus of what you hope. So it says on here, to the news, the budget deficit is a planned deficit that was covered when oil prices crossed the $65 per barrel barrier. In another context, Sulfur indicated that the investment budget spending annually ranges between 5 to 10%. That means there's no deficit for this budget anyways. Let's hope it stays that way. This is just the oil ministry talking about they're getting ready to send over 1 million. I thought it was 2 million liters of gasoline per day. So 1 million per day over to Kurdistan per their agreement. So here's the one everybody is talking about. The spokesperson for the prime minister, the exchange rate will be fixed in the 2022 budget, and there will be no change in it. So did they say what the rate was? Drum roll, please. I don't think the rate's in here. It doesn't say what the rate is. So there's going to be a lot of talk and a lot of speculation between now and before they reveal it to us. I can guarantee that, especially in the dinar arena. So they told the news that the increase in the dollar exchange rate is an idea that has been discussed for years. The previous governments did not dare take this step because of the risk and controversy surrounding it. Of course, it always disproportionately affects the poor. As a matter of fact, destroys your middle class. Al-Qademi government was bold enough to take this decision because it is in the interest of the Iraqi economy and the economic vision. As the idea was presented within the reform of the white papers, won acceptance and extensive discussion. He continued, the government always takes steps to support goods and materials whose prices have risen. Yeah, when you lower your dollar value, the cost of goods when you import them go up. And has developed solutions and taken decisions regarding them. The idea of the dollar exchange rate is not retracted by this government. And I do not think any 2022 budget will change this price, since this government is the one who will set the budget for the next year. But my understanding is the budget isn't even going to be considered for voting until after the election. So I'm curious if they're going to get this budget across the finish line on time. He pointed out that the government at one time was unsure of its ability to pay the salaries of employees, but with the policy, it crossed this crisis, and in the increase of the oil price came as a catalyst. And even if oil prices increase, there will be major problems unless there is a wise management of financial resources coming from export raw. So this is what I was talking about. I don't know how they're going to be able to keep the price down for too long. I understand what they're trying to do. In other words, when you accumulate a lot of debt and then you devalue dollars, you're paying the debt back with less dollars is what it comes out to. He pointed out that there is a kind of rise in the foreign reserves, and there is no abundance as a result of the accumulated deficit. And therefore, any financial increase through which the government will try to fill the deficit with it, and we are not talking about existing surplus funds that we park here and there, but rather we are trying within the white reform papers to control the economy and its dynamic development. What they're going to do is make sure that their economy is on solid ground before they make any real significant changes to the rate, which is important. Again, we want them to develop their private sector. That looks good, you guys. I know a lot of you guys were asking me questions about the budget. Again, it's just speculation. Nobody knows. And anybody saying they know the rate are lying to you. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's coming up. I don't know if the budget's going to get there before the elections, or I don't know if that matters. We're going to find out, though, real soon. Anyways, that's it for now. Hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later. I'm out.